Hey guys, welcome back to the second episode of The Voice. Just to clarify, this is not about singing, it's more about voice of the community. I know the name could be confusing. And for today's episode, we have Kellen with me. Thanks for joining in, Kellen. How are you doing today?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good as well. So, Kellen, you are like a comp expert, right? I don't think anyone else, at least I don't think of who has played comp for that long at that high level. So I think whatever you say, I don't think anyone can deny it for the most part. Obviously, people can have different experience or opinions, but I don't think that we can invalidate any of your opinions based on your experience. Is that a safe assumption?
I like to think so. Obviously, I'm open to anyone's opinions. I think anyone that's played has obviously developed their own opinions, but
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
coming from the vast array of tournaments and stuff I've played, I like to think that I have a variety of knowledge. So yeah.
Because you have been playing comp from the very beginning, right? When comp was extremely popular during the WCL, WCT, I think that was the event's name, and you did play during those events as well.
Yes. So I think that started around like 2015,
Oh,
2015, 2016. So
was there
yeah,
comp
since then.
before that, or was that the beginning of comp?
I do think there were a couple of different like community run tournaments prior, but I think WCT was really the first like full like community driven tournaments.
Okay, so when we compared those events with where we are at comp now, how would you rate it? Are we at the same spot where we were? I know we kind of took a dip uh, during 6.0, and then after when we switched from a Wargaming run comp server to now Wargaming sponsored comp server. But if we look at WCT and what we have now, are we still missing components? Was it still more popular back in the day than it is now?
I so kind of like a double-edged thing here. I think from like a gameplay perspective, we're probably in a better state now. Um, we have more tanks, means more variety of tanks being played. Whether you like it or not, accuracy changes. You have less games being decided by missed shots. Uh, with sponsored tournaments now, we have the ability to ban tanks rather than having to have, all tanks open to be played. So I think the quality of the games are better, but I think a lot of teams are missing the motivation to play, which obviously compared to WCL1, which was probably one of the biggest events we've ever had. I believe there was 151 teams that played that, and I mean honestly, we just don't get close to that now. A
And
couple of reasons.
what were the teams during WC? So you said 150 at WCL1, right? Am I saying it right? Is it
Yes,
WCL or WCT? Sorry, I have to get that.
there's two things.
Oh, there were two?
WCL1 was like the biggest one. It came a little after the tournaments.
Okay.
Uh, yeah,
So what was it after, I guess, the WCL3, right? Well, how many teams were by the third iteration? Because obviously the first iteration will have the most teams, but did the team kind of stayed or they started dropping even at that time?
it dropped a little bit. I think the first one, obviously 150. I think you dropped down to like the 140s, 120s,
Okay.
somewhere in there.
So still
But still
100 plus.
much larger population than now. Yes.
And what is the reason for lack of motivation? Is it the pricing?
I think pricing can be a big portion of that. Obviously, back in the day, you had some pretty crazy pricing, in
Mm-hmm.
my opinion. Um,
What can
I
you
mean, looking
do?
back,
Yeah, do you remember what it was? Some of the pricing what we have now compared to what it was earlier?
so for WCL1, first place pricing included 10 million silver, about 12,500 gold, 500,000 free XP, a year of premium, and a tier 8 of your choice. And back then, a tier 8 obviously wasn't always readily available in the tech tree like it was for a large period afterwards. So that
Yeah.
was
Tier 8
a lot
premiums
bigger of a
were
deal.
Tier 8 premiums were also more expensive, right? We didn't have Tier 10 premiums back in the day, so Tier 8 was the top. Because I think that's what the comp was
Yeah.
played at as well, right? Whatever games I
Yes.
saw like Tier 9 and some Tier 8 tanks. That's what I saw. So
Yeah, 754 was like the main mode back then. So
754. Yeah. So some of
yes.
the things you mentioned, you said silver. I guess now silver is not as valuable, and also custom games are free. So I guess we can kind of exclude that factor because 10 million back in the day for playing an entire event, you'll probably bleed more if you had to,
Definitely. Yeah.
right? So
I
I guess
mean,
that's kind of covered when they made the custom games free for us. So that was a
for sure,
positive
like
change.
the 10 million silver was definitely more of like the compensation reward
Hmm.
more than anything,
Yeah,
but
it was a compensation for whatever you
still,
lost.
yeah, nowhere close to what you lost though. I
Hmm.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Um,
And so we're still getting the top team is getting a tier 8. Again, tier 8 not as valuable now as you said because every month we are earning 3 tier 8s or 3 or 4 tanks. And
yes.
and then another thing you mentioned was 12,500 gold. I guess now the top teams are getting 7,500 or 5,000 depending on participation. And
Yeah,
then
so
what?
you're like a little down in that regard,
Yeah.
but
So
still
far it's not so
decent.
bad. But what you said about
Yeah.
free XP 500,000, that seems
Yeah.
like, so if we use the basic conversion, that
Yeah,
is
it's like
equivalent.
20,000 gold's worth,
Yeah, 20
I believe.
additional 20,000 of gold, right? I think
Yeah.
that is definitely, not to mention back in the day, all these things that you mentioned were way more valuable, right? They were rare,
Oh, for
and
sure.
we didn't have that many boosters to grind what we have now. So grinding is not an issue these days, but free XP is valuable in its own way because if you don't use it for lines, you can still use it to buy premium tanks whenever they are available. So I think that is one thing I think they should add in terms of rewards to give them additional free XP, even if they can't be 500,000, maybe start small with 100,000.
Yeah, I think free XP, I mean, it's useful regardless of whether
Mm-hmm.
you've had uh, lines completed or not. You know,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, like you said, free XP sales for premium tanks are becoming more and more common. I mean, we just had one like this past month, so
Yeah, that was huge.
uh,
But
yeah, that can always come in handy.
but we can ask for whatever we want, but the reality is it's based on how many team participate, right? So
Yes.
back in the day, from what I remember, they justified rewards by how many silver was used during the event. That was their source of balancing. At least when Wizard was running things, right? That's what I kind of got an impression that the more silver is being spent, that means that's where they can get the reward from. So currently in our events, we have like what 50 teams at max.
Yeah, I'd say between NA and EU,
Yeah, and I
probably
think
about 50.
if we have if we have to convince them, we do need more teams to play. But again, we can't do
Definitely.
that by ourselves, right? Like we had, so the event is or the server is run by Dave and other tournament ambassadors, and they do advertising whatever they can. But I feel we could, or wargaming can do a little bit more in terms of maybe doing it on their in the game or maybe in the website. Do you think there should be
Yes.
like a portal of some way how to get the word out? Because most of the players, they don't even know that comp exists, right?
Yeah, like it's such a niche community, and you really have to be part of either the Discord or the old forums to even know it exists.
Yeah.
Like this isn't advertised anywhere else. Uh, Back in the day, you actually did used to have portal articles on their website. So WCTs, WCLs,
Hmm.
even like some of the tournaments Wizard ran, Global Map, they all had portal articles where you could find information. You got links to Discords to sign up. You got prizing info.
Did they have
I
the?
feel like that was
Hmm.
the peak of like spreading information to those who might not know.
Did they had like a separate category or label in on their website or like a separate dedicated section of portal, or was it just added to the default
It
news
it was
portal?
just in the news, yeah. Like
Oh.
it had its own. You could filter the news by
Hmm.
category, and there was like a tournaments related one,
Okay.
but it was always just under the news tab.
So we do have that, right? I guess we just need we need to convince them or suggest them to start adding that information
Yes,
over there, and also most of the people are on the main Discord, right? Maybe have a separate section to for specific news to just kind of get posted over there. People can see what's going
definitely.
on. for
Yeah,
the
any kind of exposure can be good. I
yeah,
mean,
any kind of exposure, because that's just the first step, right? Even once you get into comp, there's still that issue with, if I'm a new player, why should I play comp? Because the thing is, the rewards, as you said, currently it isn't there because you earn more just by playing pubs. So the
yes.
comp needs to have something exclusive, right? Something, as I said, and free XP is one thing that you can't really earn that much during or in pubs, right? And another thing, we do need, I guess, some exclusive camos. We do used to get it during global, right? We have this one special
Yeah.
camo, but I think we can
Exclusive cosmetics are
yeah.
a big thing, I think. I mean, you can look at any game for that though. I mean, you have, you know,
Mm-hmm.
Rainbow Six Siege has like weapon charms for ranked and stuff. There's always some kind of cosmetic reward that, it's not the most valuable thing in the world,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a reason you can only get it in that mode or in that tournament or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's there, it's a motivation because you want something exclusive. You want something cool. And I mean, cosmetics are just obviously such a big part of games now. So
Mm-hmm. Especially,
I
yeah,
think that's the best way going forward.
since we have the commanders, right? It could even be some exclusive commanders. I don't know how much
Yeah,
development effort it costs, right? It could be some of the exclusive 3D skins. There are a lot of cosmetics that essentially, because they don't impact the gameplay, right? They don't give you any advantage,
definitely.
but they do give you a sense of satisfaction that, okay, I have this, and you kind of feel a little happy, right? You feel special, regardless
Exactly.
how we see it.
Yeah, I would even go as far as to say like Garage Gear is a great
Mm-hmm.
example. I
Yeah,
mean, you win a tournament, you have like this giant trophy in your garage,
oh yeah,
something to look at, especially
definitely.
if you're streaming like yourself or any
Mm-hmm.
other content creators.
Yeah,
It's something to be proud of.
yeah. And
It's something unique. So
I think that could be easily convincible at this point, because they're really promoting the garage, right? And garage is obviously,
definitely.
uh, a lot of resources being spent, because it uses silver or gold, right? It's not free, and I think that is something. Have you suggested that already, by the way?
Uh,
Yeah.
I have to Dave, yes, but
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So moving on to the next part, what do you think about custom games? Where's the state of custom games experience? How is it better than what it was back in the day? I know we are still missing a couple things, right? For me, the main thing is we still don't have the grid on the mini map, which is the basic change. But what else can
Yes.
they do to promote, or not promote, but make it easier for teams to navigate, or anything that'll help?
So I do think that we're in a better state than we have been in the past for custom games. We've
Mm-hmm.
got a lot of different like features now, like being able to switch sides. You have spectator, you have blind pick.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there is still work to do, obviously. I think number one for a lot of people would be bug fixes.
Yeah.
Um, you know, there's the one where you pick a tank and it's not actually the one that you go into the game with. I'm
Mm-hmm.
pretty sure that's still around.
Yep.
Uh, there's the proc bugs where if you change anything in the settings or even open the settings
Yeah.
and your map is proc, it will remove the map.
It'll
That's been such a
randomize it.
frustrating bug
Mm-hmm.
for so long, and it's still in the games for some reason. So I think my number one there is definitely bug fixes. Get that taken care of. Just improves the general quality of life playing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Beyond that, there's a few other features I would say would be good additions. I think access codes for private games, like just having some simple like 4-digit code to be able to get into a match would be huge, especially tournaments or something. You have so many people just joining the lobby randomly. You don't want to
Mm-hmm.
have it completely closed because people disconnect and have to have it reopened, and
But
it's just a hassle, right?
we still have that closed option, right? Where we can invite people though. So there's private, there's
Yes.
public, and then there's
Yeah.
closed. I think it's closed, or is it private, where you could invite people in your friend list?
I think
So
it's private, but I
okay.
find that also to be kind of finicky as well. Like sometimes the invites don't even work,
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess to have better, like, or a cleaner room, right, where you don't have to worry about kicking people out that randomly joins, because even if the room's open for 10 seconds, you'll have a random join, and
Oh,
immediately
definitely.
pick the tank.
They'll throw up their new premium tank they just got in the
Yep.
earn up or something, and then yeah, like
And then what
then you
happened?
accidentally start it,
Yeah,
and
you either accidentally
boom,
started,
you
or
have
what
to restart.
happened to me
Yeah,
is I'll try to kick them, but he'll leave or someone else will join, and I'll
yeah,
kick the actual person or
yep,
ban the actual person.
yeah. Ban an actual player, then you have to go through restart the whole room. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a whole hassle. Yeah,
yeah, it'll definitely
for
make
sure.
things easier for person managing the room, right? The code
Yeah,
system. Hmm.
I know another big thing that's been brought up is some way to view lineups, like your individual team lineups
Yeah,
before you start the game with
yeah,
blind pick enabled. So many times it's hard to communicate and get everything right a lot of times.
exactly, exactly.
So being able to see what tanks are picked would be huge. I'm not sure what the best way of doing this would be that like would limit development time.
I was
Obviously, you could
thinking,
have.
I was thinking
Mhm.
more of a spectator enhancement. So you know how we have spectator right now? We could
Yeah,
add like another one that is called, let's say, team leader. And you have to
yeah,
manually assign that person, like someone to be team leader, so that any person that randomly joined doesn't get assigned. And obviously, two-person, they will be team leader. Once anyone is a team leader, they can't manually, you can't manually switch sides for them, and they can only
yeah,
view their side of the lineup, right? You don't need everyone to view the lineup. I
exactly.
think only
Yeah,
one person who's probably calling should be good enough. Because the main thing
yeah,
with that is, if they said that, if it's like default, right? You don't want to accidentally disclose the lineup. You kind of still want that secrecy and making it impossible for mistakes to happen, because that'll defeat the entire purpose if someone accidentally moves someone left
exactly.
and
Like,
right, and then they'll end up
yeah,
viewing it. So I think they can
exactly.
just kind of extend on the spectator functionality, because that's what spectator currently does, right? They can view the tank, everyone's tanks in blind pick. You just add another constraint to it. So I think it's pretty
Yeah.
straightforward. But I think for last year we haven't seen any improvement or quality of life changes in custom games at all. It has kind of
It has
stopped.
been a long time, I feel like.
Hmm.
To be fair, they did get a lot of the main things that we had before they messed it up with the 6.0. So, you know, it took a while, but we got those things.
Yeah.
And I think it's just kind of stalled out, yeah.
What feature is missing that we had in spectator mode pre 6.0? I know the tanks don't gray out. That is one, right? Before, whenever the tanks
Yeah.
die, they still say light up.
Yeah,
So,
having dead tank information kind of it's clutter. It's not the biggest problem, you know.
hmm,
Sometimes it can be good, I guess, if you're wanting to know like what tank just died right
yeah.
there. Like it can be nice having that information. Um, but generally, yeah, it is just clutter, and especially if you're having larger battles, like global map had like 10v10,
Hmm.
even like 15v15. Some teams do or something like
Yeah.
some other leagues, but it's not that big of an issue for 7v7 or lower. But yeah, I can see how that could become troublesome.
I also remembered, I think someone mentioned, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but back in the day, Wargaming used to stream comp events on their, or maybe they weren't streaming, but they would give like the passkey. But the events were hosted on the main channel.
Yes, I think this was done actually a couple of times. I think it was mainly in the period I didn't play that much. So
Hmm.
between like WCL1 or WCL3 and the start of like the Wizard tournaments, I think.
Hmm.
That period of time, I think they did allow for some streams like that, and I think that's a great idea. I see World of Tanks like PC does this all the time.
Yeah.
I just watched their Onslaught
Hmm.
qualifiers or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just has community contributors hosting. Obviously, they have the stream keys.
Yeah.
We already do this with Extra Life every year. I
Yeah.
don't see why it would be too big of an issue.
Hmm.
I I think the only issue really you run into now is how many competitive streamers are community contributors or community ambassadors. I know there's yourself. Do we have any others that like do
I.
it that much? I know Zach Tool's done a couple, I think,
Hmm.
in the past. Yeah, I think I think
I.
there's just like a kind of a void there, but
Hmm. To kind of get it, like have that reliability, right? Because you're still streaming on their channel, and I guess they're more comfortable
Exactly.
whoever is
Oh, I
a
100%
community
understand that. Yeah,
contributor.
you don't want to give it to
Hmm.
just anyone. There's
Yeah.
obviously got to some
Hmm.
reliability
I
there.
think
So,
even they can even like for the beginning they can even give it to someone that's not actively play comp, right? I think so for example, one name comes to mind is Petty, right? He's the CC, and he used to
oh,
play
definitely.
comp, right? So he
Oh,
do
yeah.
understand and kind of he doesn't play because in my case, if I'm playing, I can't really stream any games until we are eliminated. There's always that
Yeah.
constraint. But for someone who's not playing, they don't have that constraint, and that would. I guess we do need more options though, right? Because availability is always an issue as well.
We do. Yeah.
And we kind of have to.
I mean, any CC that's even remotely
Yeah.
interested, I, well, you don't have to know everything about comp to
Mm-hmm.
be able to stream it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, the community's willing to give feedback and help guide you anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think anyone that's willing to would be a great addition,
Yeah.
and definitely could help support the whole having a stream on official channels. I mean, that would be huge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because no one is as close to as wargaming. I mean, War Console isn't as popular compared to PC, right? But like even anyone on Twitch that streams by themselves, they're not as doesn't have that much reach or exposure
Yeah,
they can give to comp as wargaming themselves. And
exactly.
I feel Teak really realized the importance of comp because since it's shifted, we do got better pricing. I remember we didn't have that many third party events when Wizard was managing it, right? If it was global map and they would do like a 7v7 every quarter.
Yeah, I think like every season usually there was one. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do think
yeah,
Tick is passionate. Hopefully, we'll bring it to him, and they can because some of the things we suggested, right? They're easier to do, like streaming on their channel.
yeah,
They already do it at Extra Life, and that'll be a huge improvement. Another thing I think that is like a untapped market is the Cold War. We haven't seen much Cold War comp. There was one that was hosted in the main Discord, and I think there was some third party. But do you think Cold War has potential for comp in a way that World War II does? Because they tried True Vision in Cold War, but that doesn't really work, right? Because we have smoke, and essentially there's this huge exploit where you can just throw smoke and put tanks on the cap.
yeah. I actually did play a couple of matches of that tournament, and that is something that did happen to us, which was just wild. Even though there wasn't True Vision, it was still like kind of crazy. But yeah. I think Cold War as a whole, I think there's potential there. Personally, I'm not super interested in it. But as long as there's, players that support it and want it, sure. Who am I to say like, no, that can't be comp because I don't like it or it's not the traditional thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think there's a lot of issues in Cold War that make that experience um, less competitive, I guess is one way of putting it, than like a World War II counterpart. Obviously, you have broken things like, I mean, tank balance obviously is like a huge one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Balancing missiles, balancing auto cannons, so many multi-system weapon tanks. You can't really run True Vision, so any tank
Yeah.
with camo becomes, that much more powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
As you were saying, now we have
yeah.
more control or suggestion over tank bans, right? Because even the Cold War event that did happen, there was like no duplicate premiums
Yes.
or as well as broken tanks with camo. Like I think the TDs they were banned, the tanks that had to be proxy spotted. So we do
Yeah.
have kind of control over that feedback. But what my concern is, I think because the way the Cold War is, if you want to attract the core Cold War players that actively play Cold War players, one of the reasons they play it is because of True Vision. And I don't know how. I think that's something we need to keep in mind if we want
I
to.
agree. Yeah. I feel like True Vision is just part of that game,
Yeah.
and not having it is not really Cold War at that point.
Plus, as I said, it just create more issues, right? If you didn't have True Vision, then smoke just becomes too powerful. At least when you have True Vision,
Yes.
right? Smoke is still powerful, but not as much. Another thing
Yeah.
I feel is MBA is not really that suitable for True Vision. I feel it more like an encounter would be a better option because
Um, I could see that. Yeah. I think,
you have like more maps, right? Because Cold War need like bigger maps, and
yes,
I think and the maps that play Cold War really well are the ones that are the original four maps, the Desful, Calbang,
Desfold, Calbang, uh,
Mannheim.
Fredvong,
Yeah, Fredwang. Fredwang
Menvong,
was the
yeah.
best. I think maybe Halfway Pass as well. It's pretty big, right? And I think those maps they have. First of all, we have more maps with encounter version, right? And like some of the bigger maps, even 1200 by 1200.
Yeah.
MBS maps are pretty limited. Did we get MB added to Ruinberg, by the way? I forgot. Is that just a map issue or they did not add it?
We do have NBA on it, but I don't think it is like PC's NBA.
Okay.
Uh, so I don't know how viable it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's probably we'll see because when we had the Cold War event, most of the teams that did play it were the ones that play World War II. I didn't see any players that specifically play Cold War. Maybe they didn't even know about it that there's an event going on, right? And that's where the lack of
I mean,
advertisement
yeah, I would
comes into
say
play.
that would be part of it, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Comp's always been a World War II focused game mode, so a
Mm-hmm.
lot of teams that maybe only play Cold War, primarily play Cold War, probably don't have any recollection of that. Like they aren't in the servers or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing is, I feel like the amount of active players that only play Cold War is much lower than World War II. I mean that's evident in like queue times and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So if we are struggling in World War II to be able to hit like 50 teams with
Mm-hmm.
that many people that play World War II,
Yeah.
what's the realistic window for Cold War?
True.
It's because there are going to be World War II teams that have no interest in playing Cold War at
Yeah.
all.
Yep.
So
Yep.
you lose those.
Because you
Who
have
do
to
you bring in to
grind.
replace them?
Because you have to grind the tanks, right? And it's not easy.
Exactly.
Someone who spent so much time grinding, getting all their favorite World War II tanks, and they're
Yeah,
not a fan of True Vision, they're not gonna grind, and definitely not
exactly.
gonna spend that much free XP to get those tanks. So yeah, there is, I guess, as you said, right, there is potential, but again, there is limitation that the player base is not as high. So I guess they can still do
Yeah.
like one event in a year and see how it goes, but the focus will be World War II because of
Yes.
how it's
I
been.
think another thing is, you know, you could probably get away with more than one event. I think in the future we need to work more on attracting more teams so
Hmm.
that we can add more events that are more diverse. I think
Okay.
right now it's like we're running like one tournament on the like comp server, like every there's only one going at a time,
One
right?
going at a time, yeah, and then the third party. But do you won't that split the player base? Because that's another thing that I was thinking about. So right now, at least as far as I know, there are a lot of third party events going on. We have like TCL is about to start. Then we have Calamity that's going on. There's another couple EU ones and another NA ones. But do you really think teams can play more than one event, like during a
I
week?
I think that just comes down to motivation, right? Um, Lots of teams participated in these older tournaments, even like Wizards tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
You pretty much had to dedicate both days on the weekend. I
Yeah,
mean, you had like 3 games each day, and people played it. So, what's the difference between that and now? I think it's just motivation, really. Um, you know, Playing 1 game a week is achievable for pretty much most teams, right?
yeah.
I don't think people really have an issue with that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but what reason should they play more than that if they aren't being compensated with rewards or some kind of unique pricing? So that just doubles back to the pricing issue, and I
Yeah.
think it pretty much just all ties together, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
more pricing equals more teams equals more participation, more
Yeah.
viewers,
Yeah.
more
Because I think
yeah.
we have the platform now, right? As I said, like more control in terms of feedback. But because one of the events that recently happened was GTL, right? And it just didn't even finish. And that's
Yeah, I mean that's the problem with third party.
yeah, and that's the
Uh,
reason I just for now we have just stopped playing any third party events because obviously they don't never have any prizes to begin with, right? But the fact that if half the team's gonna stop playing, why are you even playing it? When there's
that
another
is the
event
issue,
going
yeah.
on the main Discord server, right? And as you said, right? They can run more events at the same time, maybe, but I don't know how closely tied these third party events are with the main server. Like, do they? I think they just need to work together.
It varies, yeah. I
Yeah.
I think there just needs to be more support from wargaming in general.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's great. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Supporting the comp server is amazing,
Mm-hmm.
but then you're struggling with all these third party uh, tournaments that they aren't affiliated, so
Mm-hmm.
they don't get anything, and there's no avenue for them to get anything.
Yeah.
Whereas before, you could like still talk to a community manager, community liaison about
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
and see if you can get pricing. That's just
Mm-hmm.
not an option anymore because
Mm-hmm.
all of their focus is on the comp server.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, it's great that we have the comp server and all the tournaments related to that and the people that work on that,
Yeah.
but it kind of killed all of the third party ones as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you weren't affiliated,
Mm-hmm.
it's nothing pretty much.
And I think they're just worried about prizes being distributed in an unfair way. I think that's their concern, right? So as you
Yeah,
said, back in the day, it was easier to get affiliated. Maybe there was like more trust. But now, if someone just who hasn't worked with them before, right, or doesn't have like a track record, it's just difficult for
yeah,
them to approve. Okay, we'll give you the prizes, but who? How do we see that it's being properly handled, right? That it's not just
right.
being
Yeah,
abused. And sometimes they're like, we don't even have time to watch over this third one because whatever limited focus we have, right? Because we used to have this different team that doesn't exist anymore. So now the server is
yeah,
actually run by players only, and they're like, we can only watch this these events, and they're running throughout the years. We just don't have the resources to watch the third party. There's that constraint as well, right? It would be nice
yeah.
for them to get something, but I don't see that happening though. I think the best
No, I
case,
don't.
yeah, would
I
for
think best case is just expanding on the comp server,
yeah,
really.
yeah. I think the best
Um,
case is to expand on the comp server if possible. Just try to find a way for them to work together. Mm-hmm.
yeah. I
So,
will say one thing that I'd like to bring up,
mm-hmm.
kind of in conjunction with that, with the fact that there's only one tournament running at a time.
Yeah.
I feel like this leaves such an open spot for something that's maybe not as serious as competitive, but still competitive in its own way, and that's ranked, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, obviously it's not as competitive as a full-fledged tournament, um, but there's a reason we play 7v7,
Mm-hmm.
uh, certain maps only. Like it's because it's fun.
Yeah.
Uh,
They're
so if
balanced
you can
maps.
exactly, if you can like replicate that experience in maybe something more casual, but still like win win based, like ranked,
Mm-hmm.
I think that alleviates a lot of pressure off of comp as well. Um,
Do you are you thinking about now we have events mode, right? Do you want an event mode where you can play 7v7? Or are you
I
just
think it would
saying
be an interesting one. Yeah.
but
Um,
that would make the regular player suffer a lot as well, right? If you're
it is
playing
true. Yeah.
if you're playing 7v7, yeah, you're gonna have great experience. The team that play comp, they'll be able to gather. They know what they're doing. But your average player, he's playing by himself. He won't
Yeah. So
be
it would be something to test at
yeah.
least.
Uh-huh.
You'd have to gauge how people react to it. Obviously, if you're
Mm-hmm.
playing, a seven-man team of like immortals, one decoy, Dirtblick, like obviously, like that's not going to be fun for you as a
Mm-hmm.
solo or
Mm-hmm.
really anything.
Yeah.
So, you could try to do 7v7
Mm-hmm.
allowed, or you could even limit it to three, honestly,
Yeah.
like the current events mode. If you
Mm-hmm.
just have three of your friends, I
Yeah.
mean, at least then it doesn't get boring.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, a seven stack of a top team playing ranked
Mm-hmm.
together,
Yeah.
that's gonna get boring pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Like,
But you'll just finish it pretty
th- yeah, I mean,
mm-hmm.
that's why, like, the game is fun now, is because you have such little impact
Mm-hmm.
uh, compared to like the rest of your team.
Yep.
So,
And that's why like three-man
if you
platoons
limit it
were
to three,
better than five, right? It kind of helped
exactly, exactly, yeah,
the matchmaking. But so basic, what you where we're getting at is we need like a level system, right? I mean, they're kind of slowly getting at it, but it looked like they're going towards ranked, but at the same time they're like it won't be ranked. So I'm kind of confused what it
I
is, right?
I'm also confused. So it's like they're hesitant, right? Like
Yeah. And I don't see the reason
I
for hesitancy because one of their things they said was, well, this will split the player base. Well, that doesn't seem to be the issue anymore because we see a lot of these events once a month.
exactly. And you already split it with Cold War. You already split it with co-op.
Yeah.
Like these
That.
are all things that maybe we didn't even ask for that you did.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Yeah.
feel like something as popular as ranked, I don't see that being an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, yeah, with all these event modes going on, it doesn't seem to really affect it that much.
Exactly. And considering how much tanks are being earnable in regular mode, right? We can just kind of take something away from it and add to rank as like, even as you said, right? Cosmetics. If they're worrying
Exactly.
about giving away too much, right? Which they are right now. I guess it is an old game, so they want to keep it as popular as possible, right? So that people are playing
Yeah.
all the time. And the way they do it, as you said, right, is rewards. And the same
Yeah.
principle applies to comp or ranked. And
I think we're also in like this weird point of like they've had we've had a season start, we've had their anniversary stuff and
mm-hmm.
giveaways.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of stuff given to us recently
Yeah.
that's not always available. So I think the whole hesitant to like give away that much, it's not like a usual thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't see a problem with that for ranked,
Yeah.
especially if it's just a couple of war chests, like
Mm-hmm.
you give 3 to 5 war chests and some other various things, and people will be happy.
Yeah. Because war chests always have that potential of you earning a duplicate tank, right? Like if you
Exactly.
if you give someone 1,000 gold as a reward compared to one war chest, they'll obviously one war chest is going to be more lucrative. And most of the
Yes.
time, it's just going to be 150 gold. So
Yeah, it can be 150 gold. It could be
yeah.
8,000 gold duplicate. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and people are always going to go for that for
Mm-hmm. And they
the
already
gamble, I guess.
have the ranked exclusive camos as well, right? They used to give away. They can still use the same
Exactly.
ones. I like those.
They could use the same ones. They could make new ones.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I mean, it's been how
Mm-hmm.
many years?
Yeah.
Even changing the color scheme of it, like instead of it's green and yellow, now it's blue and purple or something,
Mm-hmm.
or
Yeah.
like just color changes would make you know all the difference too. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hopefully we're getting there slowly. We'll see which direction they go. We'll try to
slowly, yeah,
steer them in the right direction. But
definitely, yeah.
we'll see. Okay, so what else do you think? Okay, that's too much about comp. What's the most frustrating thing for you in the game? Like if you have to say something,
Ooh,
you primarily play World War II,
that's
right? I've seen you sneak
yeah,
into Cold War time to time.
yeah. If I'm just not really wanting to try that hard, I'll just run around in my weasel, I guess,
Yeah.
and yeah. But yeah, I mean, I primarily play tier 10, so I think the obvious answer here would have to be just tank balance. And I think as a whole, tank balance is all right now. There's
Mm-hmm.
just a few outliers. And that's really the issue that I have,
Mm-hmm.
especially when they're given away for either free, very low amounts of gold, or they're purchasable for like free XP, like the Tehran recently.
Mm-hmm.
So, obviously you have Tehran, you have AVRE, and even some other tanks. T58, having a bunch of those running around
Mm-hmm.
isn't very fun to play against. Just high alpha tanks in general.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I
Yeah.
think
They were doing the tank
that's kind of
reforges
like the
pretty
pain point.
regularly, but that's another thing that has just kind of stopped altogether. We haven't seen any
Yeah, like
for
that's
6 to
such a
8
shame.
months. Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking back on that a couple of days ago. Like we haven't seen one of those for so long. It feels like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And I think
I feel like the last one too was like an M1 Abrams reforge or something. So it wasn't even like World War II related. So
yeah, that
I don't
was
know.
like there were a couple that were mainly Cold War because they didn't do them, and then they obviously
Yeah,
changed M1A1 multiple times.
yeah,
Okay. Well, interesting to know, that I'm not the only one that missed tank balances. I mean, obviously
Oh,
there
for sure.
there are a lot of people that play regularly. I think game is at a good state now where if you play casually, like let's say 100 games a month, you'll enjoy it, or like maybe 200. But if you're playing more than 500 games, you kind of get frustrated with some of these factors. Do you agree with
100%
that?
agree with that.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
I think I it was back in like January, I think. I was
Mm-hmm.
putting in like 100 games, 200 maybe.
Yeah.
And now, I've had a bit more free time, some breaks. I unfortunately have like 1,000 games this month or something
Yeah.
stupid, but yeah, like it definitely like all of those little things become so much more noticeable,
Exactly.
and
Right.
you run into it so many more times, and it just gets frustrating,
Mm-hmm.
100%.
And that's what I was saying. Whenever now someone asks me, should they come back to game, right? I'm like, yeah, you should come back. You'll enjoy it, right? Because whenever someone come back, they don't play that much. And I think that's where wargaming focuses as well, right? Because most of the players, they play 100, 200. But I think they
Yeah.
also have to pay attention to people that play more than 500 games, right? Because that one player is equal to like 5 players. And
Yes.
that frustration adds up, right? And then they become negative and things just
Yeah,
goes south from
it's like
there.
this vicious cycle of like you
Hmm.
come back to the game, you're enjoying it, you play more and more and more until you can't take it,
Yeah.
and then you stop. And
Mm.
then, however much time you need passes by, and then you come back, and then it just starts all over again.
Yep. Yeah.
That's kind of like the feel I get right now.
Yeah.
So,
Hmm.
I mean, obviously, a lot of factors go into that: tank balance, maps, all kinds of things. So, um, yeah, I mean, just be nice to get some quality of life changes, stuff like that. Just normal tank balances, stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, we basically need QL for quality of life, like a big update for quality of life for both, custom
Yes.
games as well as your pubs. I know like the tank team's working really hard because we get like new tanks every other week, right? If not every week, like 3 new tanks a month. But
Yeah, they've been doing pretty good with that
I
recently.
think we can
Yeah.
maybe kind of put a hold on that, at least from a player's perspective that play more games, right? And kind of gotta give us a quality of life update as well to make the game more enjoyable for
I would say
players that.
especially when those tanks that are coming out are maybe not as relevant,
Hmm.
like tier 8 premiums,
Yeah.
just don't really have a place in the game, with
Hmm.
Cold War being the best silver earning still, and
Yeah.
World War II matchmaking is still rough for tier 8. So yeah, I mean, it's hard to get excited even if a tank is really, really, really good. It's still a tier 8, and you're still playing against tier 10.
That was it about this week's episode. Let me know in comments if you like or dislike it, and also who would you like to see as the next guest for this series. I'll catch you in the next one. Have a great rest of your day.